Please pardon this brief interruption. Your regular programming will return momentarily, but we've been monitoring the airwaves, and some of you have been very naughty. You just don't seem to get that it's over and we've won. It will all be so much easier for you once you accept your fate. It won't be so bad, really, and we'll take very good care of you. We've always taken the best care of our servants. You'll have plenty to eat, a dry, warm place to sleep, and clean uniforms to wear. We'll even instruct your children in the ways of the world, but you really must stop your rabble-rousing now. It will only serve to delay the inevitable. Of course, Father asked me not to do this. He's so insecure for such a powerful man. I, on the other hand, am supremely confident that any challenge to our rule is no longer possible. After all, an unknown adversary cannot be defeated, and very few people have even heard of us, much less do they understand us. Anyway, I prefer not to think of our relationship as an adversarial one. I rather believe we were preordained to care for one another. Yes, it's a much more romantic ideal when put that way. Of course, there isn't room for everyone. And to the extent that help is needed, advances in technology are annually dwindling the necessary numbers. So the way I see it, the sooner we complete the transition, the better for everyone involved. Don't you agree? Now, fortunately, we do have provisions for the problem of superfluous workers. Well, actually, nature provided the solution. We have merely improved upon nature. War and disease are as old as man, and when placed under proper controls, instead of permitted to run amok, they're a pair of very effective tools for selectively thinning the herd, as it were. We mastered the art of warfare as a means to our ambitions long ago. It's only relatively recently that we were able to couple it with the science of virology to more subtly and perhaps eventually more effectively target specific populations for elimination. Cutting the fat, ridding ourselves of the excess. Certainly we possess other methods of population reduction, but war and disease are, respectively, an old favorite and a new toy. The need to restrict the labor supply cannot be overstated. A perfect balance must be maintained between our two populations if the desired stability is to be achieved. Since we are numerically few, if magnificently powerful, we cannot abide a surplus of empty heads with hungry mouths and grasping hands, wandering about with nothing to do but disrupt our utopia. No, everyone must die sometime. It is far better that one's death serve the greater good of paving the way for our earthly paradise than to waste one's life in selfish pursuits that only frustrate our timetable. That's why Marx's vision of communism was so perfect for our plan. It was pure genius of our forebears to commission him to write it. Of course, Engels was instrumental in the manifesto's formulation, but Marx provided the essential rhetoric and bombast to sell the scheme. It's amazing how few people ever conceived of our involvement in its development and promotion. I mean, it all seems so embarrassingly obvious to all of us. After all, the introduction of the document idealizes the relationship between feudal lords and serfs. I burst out laughing the first time I read it, yet it nearly succeeded in inspiring a global uprising of the working class against the middle class. The conspicuous absence from Marx's masterpiece of inflammatory railings aimed at us seemed lost on the masses. No less was expected. Today, the label of communism is no longer useful to us. Most of the world have already adopted the 10 planks of communism, and it's no longer of any consequence but what name it currently goes. The purpose was to exterminate the middle class. Whether by reams of red tape, oceans of red ink, or rivers of red blood was of no real matter to us. Once we permanently rid ourselves of this gap between us, then we can return to the natural order of things. We will be perpetually joined as originally intended, master and slave, bound together by a mutual sense of responsibility for one another. You know the truth of it. You don't really yearn for freedom. What use is freedom to the poor? Freedom to do what? Starve? Freedom is an absurdity for a man without resources, and a redundancy to the man of true means. No, your primal yearning is for the paternalistic security we can offer you. Come now, go back to sleep. You know, there are those among us who advocate a more radical tack. They propose that we aggressively pursue the technology that would make all human labor obsolete. I try to remind them that machines cannot build, repair, and program themselves. They maintain that they are working on that problem and seem confident that they can solve it. They even propose a scenario in which the machines will be used to exterminate the eaters once the technology is perfected. Their determination is based on their mistaken belief that man is an irredeemable malcontent and rebel. Those who promote this line of thinking ignore history. History demonstrates quite well that man is very adaptable to subjugation. And besides, replacing human servants with subservient robots would take all of the fun out of the system, even if it weren't completely absurd. So, you see, it is crucial to your future that you refrain from these foolish and futile acts of rebellion. They will accomplish nothing but to list your name among those to be purged for the sake of the new order. So, go back to sleep. If you have any trouble, just count yourselves.